My name is Camilla Foster, 32 years old, CEO of a marketing company I built from scratch in Chicago. Anyone looking at me now, a bride in a pristine white Italian silk gown adorned with sparkling crystals, might think I'm living a fairy tale. But the truth is, just minutes before walking down the aisle, I realized I was in the middle of a nightmare I never saw coming. This wedding dress cost nearly $7,000. A number I couldn't have imagined affording years ago when I was struggling to pay rent on a one-bedroom apartment. My mother used to say, "Camilla, you were born to succeed but never trade your self-respect for fame." Her words echoed in my mind as I stood before the mirror, adjusting the long veil draped over my shoulders. Outside, the sound of violins filled the air with the opening piece I had carefully chosen, the piece I had dreamed would mark the beginning of a new, complete chapter in my life. The doors swung open. Jason, my fiancé, entered. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, walking with confidence, but the sparkling blue eyes I once loved now held a cold, unfamiliar glint. Jason looked at me, his voice low but firm. "We need to take care of something before we go out there." He handed me a luxurious leather folder, the kind wealthy attorneys often carry. I took it, my heart pounding in my chest. "What is this?" "Just a formality, my mother wants it, sign it quickly, everyone's waiting outside." I opened the folder, my eyes falling on the crisp white pages filled with dense black print. A prenuptial agreement. I skimmed through it, my hand trembling as I saw the absurd terms. If we divorced, I would lose nearly all my personal assets, including shares in the company I had built with my own blood and tears. On top of that, I would be forced to stay silent about our marriage for life. "Jason," I tried to stay calm, my voice nearly breaking. "You call this protection? You're trying to erase everything I have?" He looked at me, smirking. "Camilla, don't make a scene. This is business, not love. Just sign it and we'll have that dream wedding day." His words felt like a blade slicing through my heart. All those years of love, of standing by each other through sleepless nights and hard days, turned out to be the setup for a game where I was just a pawn to sacrifice. I closed the folder, feeling hollow. Outside, the music swelled toward its climax. Jason stepped closer, whispering, "If you don't sign, there won't be a wedding at all. It's your choice. Don't let my mother down." In that moment, I looked deep into his eyes. The man I once believed would protect me for life. I saw no love. Only a man, cornering me, his fake smile hiding his vile schemes. "You think I'll sign this?" I asked quietly, but each word hit him like a hammer. Jason shrugged, as if used to being in control. "You want to stand here arguing while the guests get impatient? Do you know how many people are watching out there?" I glanced at the mirror, seeing myself in that pure white dress, but now it felt more like chains than pride. Jason lowered his voice, his gaze dark. "Camilla, sign it. Don't make yourself a joke." I clenched my hands, feeling the cold weight of the folder and of the man standing before me. I once thought my wedding day would be the happiest of my life. But now I understood. This day would decide whether I was a victim or a woman strong enough to defend what I had built. And in that instant, a thought flashed through my mind. If they saw me as a pawn, I would make them pay for underestimating their opponent. That night, after all the guests had left the rehearsal dinner, I returned to the apartment on the 32nd floor that Jason once lovingly called our safe haven. My footsteps echoed in the cold silence, with only the ticking clock reminding me that time was marching toward an ending I had never imagined. I placed the bridal bouquet on the table, my hands still trembling from what had happened. Jason's prenuptial folder remained heavy in my purse, as heavy as the disappointment crushing my chest. The city lights spilled through the window, casting my long shadow on the wooden floor, as if to remind me, "Camilla, this isn't a fairy tale, and the prince isn't always the savior." I picked up my phone and called the one person I trusted most, Caitlin. The moment she answered, her voice was filled with concern. "Camilla? I knew you'd call. Where are you? There's something you need to know right away." I sat on the edge of the bed, my legs weak. "I'm home. Tell me, Caitlin." This afternoon I was at the coffee shop near Jason's mother's office. "Evelyn." I overheard her on the phone. "Camilla, they planned to corner you with that prenup right before the ceremony, so you wouldn't have time to react." She said exactly this. "Wait until the right moment when she has no way out, she'll have to sign." I closed my eyes, the words cutting deep. "Are you sure? Maybe." "I recorded it," Caitlin cut in, her voice thick with emotion. A soft click, Then Evelyn's voice came through clearly. She really thinks we care about her? Naive. Once she signs, Foster Creative will be the perfect cover for everything. I sat frozen, my mind spinning. The company I had spent nearly 8 years building, my blood and tears, now just a piece in their filthy game. Caitlin, I need to see you. Tonight. We met at a small bar near the Chicago River. No more congratulations, no more sparkling wedding lights. Only Caitlin's eyes, filled with sympathy and fury. I've suspected Jason for a long time, she said, resting her hand on mine. But I didn't want to hurt you. I can't stay silent anymore. I took a deep breath, lifting my gaze to my friend. I can't sit by and let them destroy my work. Caitlin, help me find someone. I need the whole truth before I sign anything. Caitlin nodded firmly. I know someone. Thomas Reed, a private investigator, really good. He helped me expose my ex-husband in my divorce. He won't say no when he hears it's for me. That night, under the dim glow of the streetlights, I texted Tomas. Just 5 minutes later, a reply appeared. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Bravura Cafe on Lakeview Street. We need to be careful about this. I put the phone down and looked out the window. The city was still bright, but inside me all trust had gone dark. The next morning I arrived early at Bravura. The late fall air in Chicago was chilly, the wind sweeping through the empty streets like a warning of the storm ready to tear apart everything I had built. Thomas Reed was already there, holding a steaming cup of coffee, his eyes sharp as a blade. Ms. Foster. He nodded as I sat down. Last night I started digging into the Whitmore family's financial ties. I just got this message from an old source, someone who used to be the CFO of their group. She's willing to meet you, but she's very cautious. I gripped my purse strap tightly and nodded. When? Where? This afternoon, 3 p.m. A small diner on the edge of the city. I'll take you there. Her name is Veronica Hale. At 3 p.m. I sat in the corner of a roadside diner, the kind of place no one would expect a meeting like this. Veronica walked in, a woman around 40, thin, her face worn with worry and the strain of years on the run. Ms. Foster? Veronica asked softly, her eyes darting around the diner as if afraid someone was watching. That's me. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Veronica sat down, clasping her hands together, her voice tight with emotion. I was CFO at Whitmore Enterprises for 7 years, until I discovered unusual money flows passing through shell companies. They claimed it was for investments, charity, but it was really laundering money and dodging taxes. And now I believe they're targeting your company to hide even more. I fought the wave of shock. How do you know they're after my company? Veronica opened her bag and pulled out a small USB drive. I have documents showing Jason and his mother discussing how to take over your company through the marriage. These are transaction records, internal emails, and a draft plan to merge Foster Creative into one of their shell companies if you sign the prenup. I took the USB, my palm cold with sweat. Does Jason know about this? Veronica let out a bitter laugh. Jason? He came up with the idea. Don't let that charming, kind exterior fool you. I used to believe like you, until I challenged one of their deals, and they pushed me out, threatened to leak my old college photos to the media. I lost everything. I sat silent, every word from Veronica tearing apart the last illusions I had. And that's not all, she continued, her voice dropping lower. Jason and a close friend, his name is Owen. They once made a bet. Whoever married someone wealthier before turning 35 would win. I froze. A bet? Yes. I saw the messages between them back when I still had system access. Jason spelled it out. Camila's not the richest, but her company's worth enough to win. Mom's been planning this for a long time. I closed my eyes, the pain mixing with fury, burning deep inside. Veronica looked at me, sadness in her eyes. They think you'll never find out. You're the perfect target. Independent, strong, but you believe too much in love. I opened my eyes, my gaze cold as steel. They were wrong. That night, I sat in my apartment, the USB on the table, my computer screen displaying every piece of evidence Veronica had given me. The money trails through shell companies, the merger plan, the betting messages. My phone buzzed. Jason. I stared at his name on the screen, then declined the call. A minute later, a text came through. I miss you. Tomorrow will be the best day of our lives. I smirked bitterly. Of course, Jason, the best day of your life. While I'm just the stepping stone for you to win your game. I texted Caitlin, I need to see you tomorrow morning, we're starting the plan. Outside the window, the city still blazed in the night. But I knew behind those lights were shadows Jason and his mother thought I would never see. They were wrong. The real game was just beginning. The next morning, Caitlin and I sat across from each other in her small kitchen, pale sunlight streaming through the curtains, highlighting the worry on both our faces. In front of us was the open laptop, filled with all the files Veronica had handed me last night. Caitlin took a deep breath, her voice tense. "Camilla, what's your move? We can't just wait for them to fall apart." I quietly ran my fingers across the keyboard, eyes fixed on the screen. "We won't wait. I'm going to beat them at their own game." I began reaching out to people Jason and his family had wronged behind the scenes. The first person I sought out was someone Jason had once mentioned in passing when we were in love. Madeline, his former fiancée. A woman he always said was not a good match. But now I knew the story had to be more complicated. I found Madeline through a business forum. We met in a quiet cafe, where she appeared about 37, sharp and reserved, but with hurt still lingering in her eyes. "I know why you're here," Madeline said, her voice steady. "Jason once made me believe I was his everything, then one day handed me a prenup filled with ridiculous terms. When I refused to sign, his mother threatened to spread lies about my family. I chose to walk away. I placed in front of her part of the evidence Veronica had given me. I'm not staying silent. I need your help to bring the truth to light." Madeline looked at the documents, then up at me, her eyes resolute. "If you're brave enough to start this, I'm ready to stand with you." The plan started to take shape. Together with Caitlin and Madeline, I drafted a new version of the prenuptial agreement. A sophisticated document with strict ethical clauses. Any fraudulent act, manipulation, or illegal activity discovered before signing would render the entire contract void. At the same time, we created a fake charity project called Future Bright Foundation, sounding just like the kinds of foundations Jason always praised during meetings with partners. I brought up the partnership opportunity during a private dinner with Jason. "You know, I just received an invitation from a nonprofit education foundation that wants to partner with Foster Creative. They need a solid media platform." Jason's interest sparked instantly, his eyes lighting up. "Which foundation? Let my mother review their file. She has tons of experience in this area." I smiled, hiding the bitterness inside. "Of course. I'll ask her for advice." The very next day, Evelyn called me. Her voice was sweet, but beneath it was a blade of ice. "Dear Camilla, I've looked over it. That project sounds very promising. Let's discuss how to integrate it into the Whitmore Enterprises system. That way, everything will run much more smoothly." Every call, every meeting, I recorded it all, storing every word. Caitlin, with her tech skills, helped me set up a secure system to keep everything safe. But Jason was the one who never expected me to know so much. One evening, he called Owen right from his home office, unaware that I had installed a hidden camera. "She still believes I love her," Jason sneered, sounding triumphant. "Once that prenup is signed, her company will be Mom's asset." Owen replied, "Remember our bet? Whoever lands the wealthier spouse before 35 wins. Looks like you're about to win, Jason." I sat in front of the screen, my heart aching but my hands trembling with fury. My life, my love, just a cheap bet in their little game. I saved that recording into the truth file, the dossier Caitlin and I named. That night, I stayed up drafting a detailed plan. From baiting them with the charity project to the moment of revealing the evidence in front of all the wedding guests. That morning, Chicago dressed in its most splendid attire. The sky stretched endlessly blue. Golden sunlight pouring down on St. Augustine Church, the venue everyone believed would host the wedding of the century in the business world. Outside, luxury cars lined the street. Inside, the city's most powerful figures, from bank CEOs and corporate chairmen to politicians, were seated. I stood in the bridal suite, looking at myself in the mirror. Flawless makeup, a pure white gown adorned with hundreds of crystals. But in my eyes, only cold determination remained. Caitlin entered, handing me the bouquet. Her voice was soft as a breeze. "Everything's ready. The evidence is encrypted and sent to the press, Whitmore's board, and the authorities. At the right moment, the screen will play the clip." "Camilla, are you sure?" I nodded, gripping the bouquet, where I had hidden the prenup I had drafted with the ethical clause. "We won't get a second chance." The opening music began. Jason appeared, holding a sleek leather folder. His gaze was as sweet as always, but now I saw how fragile that mask truly was. "Just a little formality, my love," Jason said. his voice gentle but fake. Sign this, and we'll have the happiest day. I took the folder, pretending to read, then looked up, my voice small but firm. All right. But you'll sign mine too. Fair, isn't it? Jason froze, confusion flashing across his face. Yours? What are you talking about? I calmly pulled my contract from the bouquet and handed it to him. Just a little prenup, to protect us both. Jason opened the folder, his eyes scanning the pages, his face drained of color, his hands trembling, lips pressed tight. Where did you get this? How long have you known? I smiled, meeting his gaze. Longer than you think, and today everyone will know too. The music inside the church faltered as some guests began whispering about the delay. Evelyn approached, her face tight. What's going on? The guests are waiting. Jason looked at me, truly panicking now. Camilla, don't do this. You don't understand what you're destroying. No, I answered, my voice still soft but sharp as a blade. You don't understand what you've already destroyed. Right then, Caitlin from behind the scenes tapped a button on her tablet. The wall at the front of the church where wedding slides were meant to display suddenly lit up. The first images appeared. Emails, transaction records, diagrams of money flows through shell companies. Then came the clip of Jason talking to Owen about the bet. The church fell silent, then erupted in whispers. Camera shutters clicking rapidly. Evelyn lunged forward, her voice harsh. Stop this right now. What is this? Who gave you permission? I looked at her, no fear left in my eyes. It's what you and your son did that gave me permission, and there are more people ready to speak. The church doors swung wide. Madeline entered, accompanied by a female reporter. Hello, Jason, Madeline said, her voice calm but powerful. Remember me, the former fiancé you threatened, deceived? Jason stood frozen, his eyes desperate, searching the room for an escape. A Whitmore board member shot to his feet, his tone sharp. Jason, Evelyn, explain this. Is this true? Evelyn stammered, but her words were drowned out by the rising tide of whispers, camera clicks, and reporters' questions. I stepped up to the podium, my voice ringing out strong. Sorry to interrupt the ceremony, but I believe everyone here deserves to know what they're really witnessing. This isn't a fairy tale wedding. It's a grand deception, dressed up in a bridal gown and roses. Caitlin came to my side, her eyes filled with pride. Madeline handed the reporter the file, and the hum of cameras began capturing every moment. Jason staggered a step, whispering to me, his voice trembling. Amila, you've destroyed me. I looked him straight in the eye, answering softly. No, you did that yourself. Just hours after that ruined wedding, news about the Whitmore family flooded every media outlet in Chicago. Bold headlines flashed across screens. Whitmore Corporation accused of massive financial fraud. Fairy tale wedding turns tragic. The truth about the Whitmore dynasty exposed. I sat alone in my apartment, my pure white wedding dress now resting quietly on a chair, its long train like the trace of a shattered dream. I held a cup of hot tea, not to drink, but to steady my hands from the storm of emotions inside. Messages from Caitlin kept coming. Whitmore stock down nearly 40% in early afternoon trading. SEC just announced they've opened a formal investigation. Board emergency meeting, half the members are demanding Evelyn step down. Jason called me 7 times, I didn't answer. When his 8th text arrived, I finally opened it. Camilla? Please don't take this any further, I was wrong. But you don't have to destroy my whole family. I stared at the words, no longer angry. Just empty, as if I'd finally set down a crushing burden. That night I got a call from an unfamiliar number. The voice on the line was one I knew from the recordings. The voice of a female executive once harmed by Whitmore. Miss Foster, this is Lindsay Moore. I just wanted to say thank you. Because of you, I, and many others, finally found the courage to stand up. I paused for a few seconds, then said calmly, Don't thank me, Lindsay. Thank yourself. You chose not to stay silent. The next morning, reporters surrounded Whitmore headquarters. On the morning news, the reporter announced, Evelyn Whitmore has officially resigned as chair of Whitmore Corporation. Jason Whitmore has been suspended from all positions pending investigation. The investigations spread like wildfire. Dozens of bank accounts, subsidiaries, and fake charities were frozen. Massive sums were uncovered, the money trail now laid bare for the public to see. I received a letter from the SEC office. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Foster. We hope you will continue to assist in the ongoing investigation. Foster Creative, my life's work, escaped the threat of being swallowed whole. Former partners and clients reached out to congratulate me, eager to collaborate again. Caitlin and her legal team helped me strengthen our legal framework to protect the company from future threat. One afternoon, as the sun glowed red over the Chicago River, I sat on my balcony, the breeze tossing my hair. My phone rang. It was Madeline. "Camilla, some news," she said, relief in her voice. 3 other businesswomen just filed complaints against the Whitmores. They were tricked just like we were. Good. The more voices that speak up, the fewer people who'll dare mock justice. Jason? The last I heard, he'd left Chicago, hiding from the press. As for Evelyn, she faced a mountain of lawsuits and the looming loss of all the power she once held. I didn't feel joy at their downfall, I only felt peace. Because the truth was out, and I was no longer a pawn in their game. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, city lights casting long streaks across the walls, reminders of all that had passed. The laptop screen glowed with the Reddit page I had just opened. I placed my hands on the keyboard, feeling a quiet stillness inside. Not to complain, not to seek pity. I wrote because I knew out there were others like me. People who once believed sweet promises only to be betrayed. People who thought kindness meant weakness. I began typing, each word lifting the weight off my chest. My name is Camilla. I'm 32. I almost entered a marriage where the true aim was to take over the company I built. That man was Jason Whitmore, the one who stood before me with a smile I thought was love, but turned out to be a mask hiding greed. On our wedding day, he handed me a prenup that would have stripped me of everything. But he never knew I already knew. I was ready. And in front of all our guests, the press, I revealed the truth. The person standing at the altar wasn't a helpless bride. She was someone who dared to protect herself. They thought my kindness was weakness. But the truth is, kindness doesn't mean letting others walk over you. Those who abuse power will face consequences, and karma, it doesn't wait for an invitation. Those words were all I wanted to say. I hit post. Within minutes, the first notification appeared. A stranger has awarded you silver. Then came the comments, the private messages. Thank you for sharing. Your story gave me the courage to leave my toxic marriage. You are so strong. I hope you always keep that light inside. I thought I was alone in this battle. Now I know I'm not. I sat there reading each word, my eyes stinging. A week later, I stood in my Foster Creative office. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the space that had felt so cold after all the storms. Caitlin walked in, setting a coffee on my desk. You doing okay? I smiled, this time from deep inside. Better than ever. I don't have to pretend anymore. Her expression softened as she leaned gently on the desk. You know, a business forum just invited you to speak. Topic: How to recognize and face manipulation in business and life. I gazed out at the city, its skyscrapers still sparkling. I don't need a stage. As long as people out there dare to stand up, to speak out, that's enough. That night, as the city lit up, I opened Reddit again. Someone had messaged me. You have no idea how much strength you've given people. I hope one day to read a book you write. I didn't reply right away. I looked at my fingers on the keyboard, then quietly typed. Maybe someday, but first I want to keep living what I believe, kind but not weak, strong but not bitter. And if anyone thinks they can deceive forever without consequence, sorry, karma spares no one. I hit send, then stood and threw open the window. The cool night breeze swept in, carrying the scent of hope. My journey wasn't over, but I knew, from this moment on, I wasn't walking it alone. Looking back on my story now, I understand that the loss and pain I endured were not meaningless. That shock on my wedding day woke me up, forced me to defend myself and what I had built. Foster Creative didn't just survive, it thrived, thanks to the unity of kind-hearted people. I remind myself, sometimes, our deepest wounds lead us to true growth. And above all, I learned to believe in the power of truth and integrity. What do you think about Camilla's story and what she did to protect herself? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional and meaningful stories about family life.